Hello and welcome to AWS On Air. We are here in Las Vegas on the Expo Hall floor. Thank you for joining us today. This is the show where we dive deep with service teams to talk about what has just launched. And I'm joined by my guests today. We have Gavin Adams here and Shivi Gupta, and then my colleague Memo as well. So please tell us a little bit about who you are and what team you represent.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shivi Gupta. I am a product manager with the AWS IoT Greengrass service. And we have a couple of launches that we have done at reInvent, and I'm here to talk about the Greengrass software catalog. So it's basically an index of components that can run on top of Greengrass. For some of you who might not be aware of the service, it has a component that runs on the device. So it's an IoT service. It allows you to make edge devices a little smarter, and then it can be managed and controlled by a component that's sitting on the cloud. And we have a bunch of components that we have launched as part of this Greengrass software catalog. There are about 13 new ones compared to a few that we already had this year. And there are a couple of interesting ones where you can stream data to KVS, you can have support for Modbus TCP protocol, and also support for Grafana on the edge. And
so I just want to step back just a little bit. So Greengrass is a component that runs on a device?
Greengrass is the platform that runs on the device.
Okay,
yeah.
tell me a little bit more about that.
So it's, I try to explain, Gavin, why don't you
go for it.
So Greengrass is made up of two components. There's the cloud side, which is the orchestration where all the various resources reside. And then for the actual devices, which can be Linux devices or Windows devices natively, we have Greengrass software that actually runs on there.
Okay.
And what it basically does is it orchestrates being able to pull components down from the cloud, run those locally, and then have full access to all of the resources on that particular device and on that local network.
Okay.
And one of the key things is when Greengrass is in a disconnected state, all that logic that we've actually deployed down is still operational and running there.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, got it.
And Shivi mentioned it, well, two things. Number one, we didn't let you introduce yourself. We got too excited about what we were talking about.
Yep.
So I'll get back to you, but I'm going to toss it to you with another question. You mentioned edge.
Yeah.
So that's a big component in a lot of what we want to do, but if you could give us what your definition for what an edge computing device is, it'd be great. So.
Yep. So my definition of edge is any type of compute that is happening on a physical device or outside of the general cloud environment, normally in environments that are more constrained than you'd find like in a normal office or working in the cloud in general. So manufacturing floors, this could be on top of wind turbines. These could even be devices out at sea that have limited or no internet connectivity for long periods of time. And by having the edge compute or the edge capabilities, we can still do things when those devices are out without cloud connectivity or without the internet. And then when they do come back in range, we can resync up, send data, get new information down, etc.
Okay, and then the second part is you were going to introduce yourself.
Gavin Adams, I'm an IoT specialist with AWS, and I work in the worldwide specialist organization, basically helping customers convert their business outcomes when it's related to IoT into actual workloads on top of AWS.
Okay, so tell us what just launched. It's the Greengrass software catalog.
Yeah. So the Greengrass is designed in such a way that you can it can run on the device and support you trying to run different capabilities. So let's say Edge is all about trying to perform functions closer to the edge device itself, reduce the latency, so you can run ML models, you can tell the device to perform certain functions, and it doesn't have to talk back to the cloud. And you can aggregate that, the data that it wants to send over a day or so, and then it can send that data. So it makes the device smart enough to keep doing functions by itself. And Greengrass the service is designed in such a way that we want to enable people to build their own components to do that. So earlier this year, we integrated with SageMaker, so you can have ML models that are designed in the cloud, tested and so on, and push it to the edge as a Greengrass component.
Okay.
So what we have launched with the software catalog is a bunch of new components that solve some of the common patterns out there. So there are a lot of customers who say, I want to send data to Amazon KVS, how do I do that? And that gives us the capability to do that. There's some customers who ask for support for real-time database at the edge, and then we heard that and we said, okay, here's the support for InfluxDB. So the catalog is allowing for people to have access to these on GitHub. So all these components are open source. and people can pick them up, enhance them, and just start using them.
So,
Got it.
so you literally just answered the two questions I had in my mind, which is how are these getting distributed, which sounds like GitHub,
Yeah.
and what's the licensing for the software components? It sounds like it's open source.
Yeah.
Do we have clarity right now on how people can contribute to that? Are we taking contributions from the community? Are we only taking feature requests? How is that working?
Good question. So because it's just launched on Monday, we have components that are built by the broader community of Greengrass developers within Amazon. So there are a lot of SAs who have actually put forth some work, and the service team members as well. And right now, people can request for features or report bugs using GitHub issues. So I think that's a very unique piece about this launch, is that GitHub is something that a lot of people are already accustomed to. So
Yep.
we are not expecting people to get used to a new platform. And we have it on the roadmap to try and enable contribution from people outside Amazon. So that's something that we are working on.
That's awesome.
Got it.
Yeah.
And as developer advocates, we love when we build something at AWS that meets our developer customers where they are, right? And
Yeah.
they are in GitHub, so it's
Exactly.
awesome to see that.
Yep. So you talked about filing bug reports, requesting new capabilities. Is the roadmap, is it a public roadmap?
No.
No?
But it's
Okay.
something that we want to build in the
Yeah,
future.
okay, got it. Okay. And these components, can I use them out of the box in my production workloads?
Yes and no. I'd
Okay.
probably say, the thing is, because they're actually on GitHub, is that customers can go ahead and download the code. It goes to a higher bar than just regular contributions we normally
Yeah.
see through AWS samples.
Yep.
And so all of these repositories are on AWS Labs.
Okay.
So internally, we do have a higher bar. There's at least a peer review and additional checks to
Okay.
check the validity. But we'd always recommend to customers that they actually test these out in development or
Themselves.
non-prod environments first to validate that they work properly before
Okay.
doing them prod.
Got it.
And so to recap that, you mentioned it's the AWS Labs GitHub repository, right?
Correct.
So you can go to github.com/AWS Labs and get there, right? I'm pretty
You
sure.
can. I would Google AWS. I would Google Greengrass Software Catalog,
Awesome.
and that leads you to the page that I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just so people watching know
Yeah,
where to go
exactly.
right
Yeah.
now to start playing around with this.
Yeah.
And there's a landing page too for where the list of the published components are available on
Yes.
on our main documentation
Yeah.
that will take them directly to those
Exactly.
repositories.
And Gavin, I think you had like a little reference hardware or solution that you were working on. Could you talk us through it a little bit?
Sure, I can talk you through it. So basically, one of the components we have out there is for Bluetooth Low Energy or BLE connectivity. And a lot of times, customers want to have that physical access or be able to interact with other like local devices. We see this a lot like in smart home environments where you may want to connect to a Zigbee or Z-Wave,
Yep.
or to BLE in general. So one of our solutions architects, actually based down in Australia, New Zealand area, wrote one of these to basically allow us to have that BLE connectivity. So the component itself, you download it. We use a thing called the Greengrass Development Kit, or the GDK, and we publish a component into an actual account, deployed to a physical device that's got a Bluetooth radio into it, such as a Raspberry Pi. And now from the IoT core in the cloud, we can actually send down commands to it, have it like do a query or a scan of all the BLE devices, and it responds back with information. And then going into further detail, it can actually do connections to devices and then send information back and forth based on the BLE protocol.
Awesome. So you mentioned another AWS service, which is IoT Core, and that's what's really like brokering messages, I assume, MQTT connections to the device and we're talking to Greengrass on the device?
Exactly. So IoT Core is a MQTT-based message broker, and AWS IoT Greengrass, the device software that runs on the device, establishes a connection back to the cloud. It's always an outbound connection, so that you don't have to open up or poke holes to get down to it. And then once that's established, is that the device can publish or subscribe. So normally Greengrass will subscribe to topics to know if it needs to do updates or deploy new components. But at the same time, is that these other components, like the BLE one I mentioned, can actually do its own subscriptions, so like maybe a command and control channel, so that I can go ahead and send a command down, it does something, and then it publishes a message back on a response topic overall.
Awesome.
And that's all done via the MQTT protocol.
Yeah.
I want to step back just a little bit. What type of customers would take advantage of this?
In
And-
reality, based on the type of components we have,
Yeah.
Any customer.
It could be any. Okay.
Yeah, and there's two main reasons for that. One is like we spoke about kind of the physical hardware aspect for what customers might want to do with like Bluetooth, Zigbee, or other things like this.
Yep.
But even enterprise customers that are using using Greengrass in their environments will probably have other needs such as logging.
Okay.
So we do have components that are created by AWS. These are public components, like for
Okay.
doing AWS CloudWatch logs. But there can be other of these community components that essentially can extend that or allow customers to send information to the cloud in different ways, like for enterprise use case.
So,
Okay.
like a good example would be if you are a company that's trying to build a surveillance monitoring solution, so you can put Greengrass and use the KBS component to like take the data streaming that is coming out of RTSP cameras and then send that to the cloud. Or you can actually, some people tend to have local monitoring solutions, so we have support for Grafana. You can actually pipe that to and use the Grafana component to build a visualization dashboard on the edge itself. So it's
Okay.
about like picking up components that fit your specific use case. It's like a Lego system and just putting it together. And that catalog is there to provide you these kind of common pieces that we hear a lot of customers asking for it. And then if the community is contributing, it'll just get solved.
Got it. So when this launched, did we have a set of already created components by the community, or
Yeah.
is this wide open? People can contribute right now.
We have 13 that we've launched.
Okay.
We're adding one more tomorrow, which is about Greengrass supporting Lookout for Vision as well. And then it's a first step, so I
Yep.
expect that to grow.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Is there anything else that we can share with customers? Any? What did we miss?
One more thing,
Yeah.
in terms of like finding out more about this, you can also access it from the AWS Greengrass console. So
Okay.
in the same page that we have existing public components, there is a tab for community components. So you click on that, it takes you directly to the GitHub page.
Got it.
I'd probably say the other thing is that I mentioned the Greengrass Development Kit, or the GDK.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a command line tool that allows customers to basically like create a scaffolding. So very similar if you're creating like a brand new React or Vue, Vue.js type of
Yep.
application. It's kind of a known unknown. You know what you want to do, but you don't know how to do it in this new environment.
Sure.
With Greengrass, there are various things that you have to address, and the GDK basically helps through an init process to create that scaffolding to then allow customers start doing their own development. And it's opinionated in a way that makes it easy for them to put the code components where they need to, the configuration where they need to, and then using that same command line to basically publish it up to the cloud and have that component available in a matter of minutes.
Oh, as a developer, that makes my life easier. I love that.
That's awesome, right? Like you can get started building something with Raspberry Pi. Like you said Legos, and I started thinking
Yep.
about like, you got a Raspberry Pi, you put a hat on it that does something, and then you put Greengrass on that and take some components, so you're like building both physical hardware DIY, and then you're building your solution with Greengrass
Exactly.
and components from the catalog. That seems like really exciting to me, like a cool weekend project for someone like me that I'm not trying to build a business, but someone else can take it and like once they validate it, it does what they want and it works how they want it to work. They could do a startup or integrate into their existing solution. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think that is all we have, unless anyone has any last things they want to talk to the audience about. Any other questions?
No questions, but I just want to add to that, like, I think our idea with launching it on GitHub was to try and reach out to all these people who want to
Yeah.
build on top of Greengrass. We open sourced it last year at reInvent, so we are trying to get traction in that manner. But Greengrass is designed in a way so that like once you upload the component to the cloud, you can use it to deploy it to your fleet of devices. So
Okay.
it goes beyond. I love the fact that people can start tinkering with it and playing with it, but you can also just once it's tested and ready, you
Yep.
can run it on millions of devices. So that's something that Greengrass really supports. Is like a use case which is at scale.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
I think that's awesome. I think you can go check out the catalog today. If there's something that you want there, let us know. That's how we improve. That's how we add new features.
Yes.
If we learn from you, and it's awesome that it's ready to deploy to thousands of devices, and you don't have to manage each one yourself.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time watching this. Thank you, Jenna, for inviting me
Yes.
to the show.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Okay. See you soon. Bye-bye.